All right, let's get into this. This is Real Estate Trends Market Updates, my podcast. And also, this is going up on YouTube as well. And I just wanted to jump on here. I saw a recent post by someone else that I follow. I wanted to go over. I know I talk a lot about what other people do. We interview people. We jump into discussions on how they are as individuals in their business, and then leading. So this podcast a little bit is really about the tactics and the ability to take these tactics and apply them to really your day-to-day if you're looking at flips. So this is going to be talking about flips. It's going to be talking about rehab costs. It's going to be talking about fixing up those properties to make them better, to get them back on the market. We do have some experience with that. We work with a lot of investors. We do some flips ourselves. We're working on one right now. And for me, there's a couple of things that come to mind, and I'm gonna basically do, and I'm gonna write this down as we're talking. I'm going to do a 1, 2, 3 bullet point of what we're looking at when we look at a flip, right? And I've done some other podcasts before about this in the past, and I just want to make sure that we go over it again, because a lot of people, flips come to mind when people talk about real estate investing, and they come to mind for being able to throw some tactics out there and say, hey, I want to do this. And how do you do this? Why do you do this? And where can you be successful at it? Well, before you get all that, you got to get into it, even if it's a deal. Is it a deal? Is it not a deal? Is it a mediocre deal? Is it a great deal? So three things that I look at when I'm looking for flips, sorry, I got a lot of scruff going on here. I've been off for a couple of days and focused on a couple other things in the business. So haven't shaved, but so a couple of things, actually 3 total, that I look for when I'm looking at a deal. And these are steps to evaluate a deal, to make sure a deal is good and you can continue on with that deal and make sure that you close that deal and then ultimately make money after you fix it up. So the first things first, I'm looking at the area. So I'm looking at the area, and what things am I looking for in the area? I'm looking for, why is someone going to buy this property? And if they are going to buy it, why are they going to buy it? And is there intrinsic values to the property? And what does that mean? So does it have a close grocery store? Does it have schools that people want to be, in the area of? Is it a market that is a better market than another area? Like, for instance, if you're living in a very sought after area, and then down the street, people don't really talk about that area that much. So location. And also, one thing that to keep in mind in location is when you exit that property, with exiting that property, is it in an area, if you don't have good schools, if you don't have, those areas where people really want to be in, but they want to buy a property for a vacation home, they want to buy a property for, there's a lure to it, and people really want to be there for a specific reason. We've done flips, and I've also helped some clients buy properties, short-term rentals specifically, in areas in California that, honestly, 15 years ago, if you asked me, would I buy a place there? No, not a chance. But we've done flips there because the extrinsic value has gone up. So a lot of people are racing to that area and wanting to see where they can go to buy a short-term rental. The rules and regs are a little bit easier and a little bit more laxed than they were before. well, ever really, and comparatively some other areas that are close by that are really tightened up and crimped down. Um, so so location's one, all right, and that's, I mean, here in California, you could buy pretty much, anything anywhere. And on top of location, you want to make sure. And the reason I say and I emphasize on location so much is because if you get rid of that property, or not get rid of it, if you can't get rid of that property and you are in a position where you have to hold it for a long-term rental for a long time, you gotta be okay with that. You gotta be, or a short-term rental for an extended period of time. You gotta be okay with that. The numbers gotta jive with that versus just taking a hit every month because you don't want to rental in that specific area. Maybe it's too far away. Maybe it's not close to schools that people want to be in. Maybe it's not even next to a school or close to any schools at all. So you're really not going to get any value out of it by a rental either. So things to think about: location is one. Functionality about the house. Functionality. I'm writing that down because that's number two. And functionality is a huge one. And the reason why is granted, the market's great right now. A lot of places you have quite a bit of movement. It doesn't matter what the house looks like. The condition can be poor. People are still buying it because there's nothing else out there on the table. Well, functionality is a huge one, especially when the market adjusts a little bit and changes a little bit and ultimately puts everybody into a position where they're like, I got more options. I can go down the street and get something that's laid out way easier. It's all single story. I don't want a 2-story. I don't want a pool that's bumping up against the property. I want an actual pool that I can walk 10, 15 feet to from my patio and then get to it. Those types of things, not those specifically, but the functionality of the house, I've seen kill deals left and right. I've had flippers not even think about that, listed for them. I wasn't even thinking about that. Or some clients and list their properties and not even think about, okay, does this flow properly? And people know what I'm talking about, and I know you guys do, is you've seen a house where it doesn't flow properly and you're like, what is going on? Why does this house look so weird? And ultimately, it's because it's not flowing well. Ultimately, even if you put $100K into it and it looks stunning, you're going to be faced with a challenge if the market turns and there's a lot more inventory on the market and you're stuck with a house that doesn't flow properly and the functionality isn't as good as it would be if there was one down the street, a 3-bed, 2-bath that fit perfectly, made sense, and the builder, when they first built it, made it just right. So that's another thing. So location is number one. And I'll beat these into this podcast to make sure that everybody gets them. Location is one. Functionality. So you could be flipping a house that's a 1-bed, 7 baths. And you could think, hey, this is good. I'm going to keep going and I'm going to buy another one. And I'm going to be able to continue on this path and ultimately make, $1 million this year. It's not going to be functional. 7 bathrooms. I know I'm being a little bit facetious here, just a little bit, but 7 bathrooms, come on. Even if it was a 1-bed, 3-bath, let's get real here. That 1 bed ain't gonna, it's not gonna be useful for 3 bathrooms. So that's another thing that you need to keep in mind when you're buying properties: location, functionality. The next one, is it even a deal? Numbers. I'm going to write that down just because we could forget it. Numbers. Does it make sense for that property? So go through the location, go through your check boxes. Location's good. Perfect. Functionality. Yeah, it flows, dude. It's good. Numbers. Does it make sense? Is it, if I put 80 into this, am I going to be able to sell it for extra money to profit is the hold time. If you're doing a hard money loan, is the hold time you're going to be able to cover the spread on that? Is that okay? Do you think the market's going to turn? And if it does, where are you at numbers wise then? Are you in a position to hold that property? What's the rental like? What's the rental income on that property? Is the rent going to support that purchase price for the interim? I just looked at a duplex yesterday, and it was $775, and the rent coming in was about $4,800, which I just helped an investor back in December of 2020 buy a duplex, and that was 1.1, and his income on that was 53 or 5,400. So, okay, yeah, I can buy something at 775 and still cash flow 4,800. I'd be good sitting on that for a while. Granted, is it on a busy street? Yeah, but other than that, so look at the location, knock it down a little bit. But numbers, do the numbers work? Okay, let's talk about numbers on flipping. So what do you buy it at? That's the best, that's the best way to gain a upper hand in the transaction, is if all those 3-bed, 2-baths are selling for 500,000 and you get it for 350, boom. Okay, deal right there, right off the bat is okay. $150,000 spread, unless you got a new roof you need to put on, the foundation's cracked, you got to put a new AC in, and the water heater needs to be, replaced, and the windows need to be replaced. You're good. Or you have to, deal something with asbestos. The numbers should work out. $150,000 spread, good. When I look at a deal and I'm scrolling through the MLS, I'm an agent, so I always go to the MLS. Sorry. I always go to the MLS and make sure that ultimately, at the end of the day, is there 150 grand right there that I can spread? Maybe like 140, 130 if it's condo, you don't have to do any exterior work. But then at that point, so let's take, and I'm just going to get into the nitty gritty here for a second. If you take 500, okay, 350, that's 150. Okay, let's say, I'm just going to pull out my calculator here /phone. If you're going to do 500K, we're looking at about 6% total, which is about 30K. All right. And why do I do 6%? It's usually about 1% of the sales price, and then 5% of the sales price. So total of 6 is going to cover closing costs. It's going to cover any agent fees, buyer, seller, agent fees. And then, so that's 30K total. Then let's roughly say it's 1,200 square feet. And I usually do, I know materials are crazy right now, so I usually do, let's do, 1,200 square feet times $50 per square foot. That's $60,000. So I'm usually off like a $50,000, or sorry, a $50 per square foot average when I do estimates. Just real quick math. 60K, that's a little shy, because if it's a single family residence, you got to paint the exterior. So let's just bump that an extra 10 just to be safe, right? So an extra 10, 70K. Boom. There we go. 70K plus 30K. What is that? Easy math. 7 plus 3, you're looking at 100K. Okay. Now, what can you net? Okay. So just for some people that are buying hard money, you have to factor in so 70K is the rehab costs, 30K is the sales fees. You have to factor in holding costs if you're doing a hard money loan. So let's say, and I'm going to do this for people that are doing hard money, and I'm going to do it for people that are doing cash. So hard money, we're looking at, give Give me 1 second. If you do, get out of here. Give me 1 second. All right, so 500,000. Let's do 20% down. We got to bump it up because 8%, 8.25%. Let's just do a favorable rate of 8.75%. HOA fees, let's get that out of here. Single family residence, 1.2% on those fees. Okay, so we're looking at about $3,400. Okay, 3,400. 3,400 times 6 months, 20K. Okay, and then let's just say 2,500 for points. So we're looking at $22,900 minus that 50K that you're going to make. 27,100. If you've ever heard any of my other videos, you'll know. And so that's what you're going to get right there, 27,100. That's what you're going to get if you're doing hard money. If you're doing cash, you're making 50,000. So you're making 50,000 on a flip. So that's 10% on your money. So you're going to have to be more conservative if you're looking at hard money, but 50,000, 10% of a return, which a lot of people, some of the hard money, I mean, obviously the hard money is not getting that. So 10% on the return, you're taking a hit, or not a hit, but you are taking the more or less conservative route, as flipping this home versus giving someone some money as a lender, because this person could be stuck with this and then you got to refinance the deal. So 50,000 on a $500,000 property after you sell that thing, that's 150K. Think about 150K, 150K, 150K. Think about that. Make sure that that's good. Okay. Let's just go through them real quick, and then I won't go in detail because I just went through them significantly. Location. It's always good. Functionality of the place. Does it actually function and flow well? Numbers. Do the numbers work for a rental? Do the numbers work for a short-term rental? Do the numbers work for a flip? That we're talking about a flip on this one. Do the numbers work? Okay. Thanks for listening. I know this is a quick episode. I think we're at like 15 minutes or something like that. I really appreciate you guys. And I know this is kind of out of the box just because I normally do some interviews or I do a market update, but I wanted to jump into this because how much are you really spending on that flip? And how much you always look at flippers like, man, that guy's making so much money. Think about the risk and the reward. Okay, you're taking a lot of risk on a $500,000 property. You're getting a big reward, 50K. That's, the average person makes about 58K a year. So in one flip, you can potentially make, what someone made that year. However, what's the risk on it? You potentially could be in that property for the next 10 years, depending on what the market does. And like I said, thanks for listening. You guys have been awesome. And I really appreciate all you guys for listening and everything else. And we'll check you guys later. I'm not going to do a normal intro. I'm just going to let this run for a minute so the editor and the producer can get this out. We'll get this out on like a special day. Thanks so much. Real estate trends and market updates with Peter McKernan, and we'll talk to you guys soon.